Welcome to our monthly coffee chat. This month, we are answering viewer questions and drinking coffee, of course. A couple of things to get out of the way before we get started. What kind of coffee are we drinking this month? We always like to tell you, this month it is organic, specialty grade whole bean coffee. It is Cafe Cubano Roast. It is a dark roast coffee. That's what we're drinking. Tell us in the comment section. Grab your beverage of choice and tell us what you are drinking with us today in the comment section. We're going to talk about the first viewer question, but first I wanted to thank all of you who gave me compliments on my new haircut. Yes, I saw a professional hairdresser and she cut 8 inches off and I literally could not be happier. I absolutely love it. I wanted to get my hair done because our son's wedding is coming up the last of September. And so when I went in to get my hair done for the wedding, I didn't want it to be like this drastic haircut right before the wedding. I wanted to just get a nice trim, maybe an updo for the wedding.
And I want to mention our coffee cups.
Oh, yep.
These are special coffee cups that I gave Hope for our 35th anniversary. Our wedding anniversary was on June 11th.
Yeah, and we always get a set of new coffee cups for our anniversary, and this year it was the trust mugs because, well, we all need to have a little bit more trust. And the other one says, thank you, Lord, because we need to be thankful and have trust. And those seemed two important watchwords for 2023 for us. All right. Into the section where we talk about viewer questions and answer them. By the way, if you don't know us, if this is your first time joining us, this is a great time to join us during the coffee chat. I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
And this is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality. All right, question number one.
Number one, this is from Lucy, and she asks, if it's not too personal, what church do you guys attend? Not specifically, but what denomination? You just have the most kind hearts. Your denomination must encourage kindness and positivity. We need that right now. We certainly do, Lucy. We attend a non-denominational church that I've been attending since 1984 and that we got married at.
This was actually a really fun question because in the comments underneath this question, y'all had some really interesting thoughts about what church we attended. Some of you thought we were Catholic, Lutheran, or Episcopal. So interesting thing about the Episcopal idea. We do have an Anglican in the family. Our oldest son is Anglican, which makes perfect sense for our family because we hail. Listen, all you people in England, we hail from England. We initially were the De Vere family from France. Aubrey de Vere came to England with William the Conqueror. Sorry, guys, we kind of showed up and took over and stayed. Came with William the Conqueror in 1066. He was one of the head battle strategists for William the Conqueror. He stayed after the war, was gifted some land, and we became the Earls of Oxford. And from there, our family line eventually went to Scotland and then Ireland. And then in the mid-1600s, we came across the pond to what was then the English colonies and stayed here in what became the United States. But fun question. So I guess the long and short of it is we would, I guess, have some family ties with the Church of England. So our son is Anglican High Church, which makes us super happy. Question number 2, love this name. Grina von Buena would like to know. Grina is a Mormon to Muslim convert. Would love to know your opinion on some Islamic money rules, how they align or differ from your Christian ones. Well, first of all, we don't know much about Muslim money rules, Christianity and Muslim being two very, very different religious choices. However, I will say that I do know enough about it to know that Muslims also, like Christians, have these thoughts about the importance of giving to the church and also giving to the needy. So I know that is part of the Muslim tradition. And so the reason I mention that is people do occasionally ask about our faith, and we're not afraid to answer that question. But really the focus of our channel, of course, is finances. However, here's what I think people need to remember and understand. Intrinsically, the way that you act out your faith and your values and your worldview, that will show up in the way that you think about money and the way you handle money. To us, really, those two are intrinsically linked to one another. And that is, of course, why occasionally you will hear us mention our faith on the channel when it comes into contact with the way that we handle our money and the reasons that we spend money the way that we spend our money.
Homegrown Hillary asks, I love how you guys do deep dives and research different frugal options. One of my favorites was the energy usage of small kitchen appliances. That was one of ours as well. What's been your favorite frugal experiment? And we were talking about this, and I mentioned, I think our biggest bang as far as frugal experiments was when we saved up to pay cash for the house that we're living in while on one income and raising 4 boys and a dog. That was a real challenge. Right now, we're working on our utility bill. That is our biggest challenge, and we're going at that from all angles, and we will have a video on that one soon.
We do, however, agree with you. We really, really liked that video where we tested different kitchen appliances. If you have no idea what we're talking about, I'll leave a link for that video up above and in the description of this video. But it also spawned some interest that we have in sort of trying out some other kitchen appliances and see how much energy that they use.
Sandra asks, what would your typical frugal staycation look like in your area? Attractions, festivals, events, hobbies, treats, etc. Also, I have a question for Hope. Did you ever ride the e-bike?
I have not ridden the e-bike. The idea of anything that goes faster than I can pedal, I'm just seriously not into it. No, I have not ridden the e-bike, and I probably will not ride the e-bike.
In a nutshell, Hope is not a bike rider. We tried in our early years of marriage, and she just doesn't enjoy it like I do. So, no, she does not.
I can ride a bike. I can ride a bike. I just choose not to.
Yeah.
But our sons love to go with him, so that's kind of fun for them.
And they don't ride the e-bike. The son that rides with me is too young to ride it yet. So when he gets old enough, we'll give him a try on it.
And to be clear about that, in the state of Illinois, legally to ride an e-bike, you have to be 16 years of age. The first part of Sandra's question was, what does a typical frugal staycation look like? All right, here's our process. As with everything in our life, Sandra, we have a process. We would pick the days we would be on vacation, and then I would start Googling 1 to 2 months ahead, fun things to do in my area, fun free things to do in my area, fun free things to do in my area during these dates. You get the idea. And I would start the process of looking through all of these places that I knew on the internet to find fun free things to do. And then we would try to mix it up a little bit.
With work.
With
projects.
Yeah, with projects. So honestly, during a staycation, we did have like one main goal to like, I don't know, clean out the family room or something if we had a bunch of stuff in there. There would be one like project.
I painted all the wood trim around the porch one staycation, and then we took one day out while that was drying to run up to a local state park, Starved Rock. And so I recall it was the first time our son James drove our van for a long distance. Yeah. He was learning how to drive. That was
memorable experience.
Yes, it was.
Very memorable.
Yeah, but we have a lot of little areas in and around where we live that are very fun to visit. We have an antique mall not too far. We love to just go there and browse around. There's a really neat old village. It's called Bishop Hill, and it's an old Swiss-founded colony. It was founded in the 1800s. A lot of history there, and most of the original buildings are still there. A lot of fun places to visit around here.
We would try to mix it up too. So like one day we were doing some outdoor activities, hiking, things like that, being in nature. And then the next day we would choose to do something that was more of an inside type activity. But yeah, we mixed up. And then we never ever ran out of things to do in our area during our staycations.
Where we live, there's a lot of local parks. And there's a really fun park not too far from us that has some really good hiking. And we spend an afternoon there. We do board games. Maybe at night we'll play games. What is one of our favorite games called where you try to guess the word?
Oh, that's Taboo.
Taboo.
Tell us in the comment section. We want to know your favorite board games because we really enjoyed playing some games with the kids when they were growing up. She asked about treats. Here is something, I don't know if this will surprise y'all or not, but we always left a specific amount of money in that staycation budget just to have treats, stuff we normally would not buy for the kids. We always did this thing called the Spoon River Drive in October. We would drive from small town to small town, and they always had like flea markets and all kinds of fun things. And there was one town that always had kettle corn, and that was our thing.
Yes.
We made
London
it like
Mills.
Yeah, so it was this yearly thing
gosh.
where we bought kettle corn
Freshly
every
made.
single year. They would do it over the open campfire. It was so
gosh.
much fun.
That's good.
So I guess that's our piece of advice: is figure out what your family enjoys doing, mix work with pleasure. And then always make sure that you have those moments of just personal satisfaction where you guys are buying something or doing something you would not normally do, because that's vacation-y, right? Is leaving time and money for stuff like that.
Donna asks a very important question.
This is important to Larry, yes.
Yes. Are you planning any travel? I feel like you both would make really fun and interesting travel vlogs.
Okay, so I will share something. I know what Larry wants to say about travel, but this is like seriously telling on myself. True story. Last week we were at our financial planner and sort of just running through like what our goals are, where we're at and stuff like that. And Larry goes, and because I had this money all allocated, right? I had this whole thing figured out. And he raises his hand in the meeting. He's like, what about travel? Am I missing something here? Are we not going on some trips? And so, yeah, it even came up. Even my propensity for forgetting to schedule in travel came up when we met with our financial planner.
Well, I think it's important to not only be frugal, but also to enjoy life a little bit along the way.
So the answer to your question, Donna, is yes, we're going to do some traveling. We have a wedding to help pay for this year, and we've got another wedding coming up next year. And so
2 years.
We do have a couple of weddings coming up. They're going to take up a lot of our time, a little bit of extra money. But yeah, we're definitely going to do some traveling. Carrie, are your kids happy they were homeschooled, or would they rather have went to school? That's a great question. We've asked all four of them, and all four of them hands down said that homeschooling was the best choice for them. When they all reached 9th grade, we sat down, we had a chat with them about whether they were interested in attending the local public high school. I think for our kids, by the time they got to that age, they really had kind of figured out what direction they wanted to go in life. And like with our oldest son, he went out, he found himself an internship, and he said, you know what? He said, it's not that I'm not interested. He said, I think it would be interesting to go on a field trip and go see what a public school setting is like. But he said, it's not like I can sign up for the local public school and say, sorry, I won't be in classes on Wednesdays because I've already gotten myself an internship. So I think non-traditional would describe our kids by the time that they got to high school age. And by that point, it really honestly wasn't a good fit for any of them.
And they did have some classroom experience.
Yeah, fair.
We belong to a co-op, and it's a local co-op. It's a group of moms. A lot of them are educated for educational teaching. So they have some very good quality teachers in there. Hope is one of the teachers. She teaches several different things. Next year, she's going to be teaching speech. Can you imagine that? But our kids had that experience. So they met with other kids. They had a lot of friends. They bonded. They had that kind of camaraderie of working in groups, working toward goals that somebody else set instead of and only Hope. So they did get that experience, so that when they went on to junior college and college, it wasn't like a major knee-jerk change for them. They did have the experience of taking tests and writing papers and having things due and so forth.
Yeah, and I've always said, homeschooling has been an incredible privilege for me, and I think it was a good fit for our family, but I don't think it would have been as successful had I chosen to homeschool alone. I think surrounding myself with another group of women and dads, there are several dads that teach at the co-op. I think that was a good decision on our part and a good choice for our family. And I think we're talking like 150 kids in the co-op. So to give you an idea, this is like a small school setting, and they have a lot of extracurricular type things the kids can sign up for if they want to do some extra things. And so that I think probably gave my kids sort of that nice mix of a classroom experience, as well as having that independent study time and that time to really hyper focus on the area that they were interested in sort of spending the rest of their life doing.
And it gave them some really nice social exposures. They were involved in plays. There's a choir, really good choir it was a 3-tiered choir for different age groups within that co-op. And all of our boys have participated in those events. They also have things like, they get together for campfire and suppers and dinners and so forth. So there really was a lot in that was very beneficial for them.
Yeah, and field trips.
Yeah.
Our sons have been in madrigals, jazz choirs, also plays, musical
plays.
theater.
Yeah.
There have been so much, and this was all homeschool driven. And here's what's been nice for me, guys. Like the lady that taught my kids chemistry, she has a master's degree in chemistry. Her experiments actually worked when she did those experiments. I was so delighted to hand her my children and say, here you go. Teach my kids chemistry. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And she was equally happy to hand me her kids and say, would you please teach my children public speaking? And so I think it's been that really nice mix of parents who have their degrees and their experience in specific areas sort of taking the reins and saying, me, let me do this. And it's been wonderful. Okay, moving on.
Diana asks, what are some of your thrifty entertainment ideas when it's brutally hot outside? We are readers and utilize the library and city pools, but always are looking for new ideas. Thanks in advance.
Okay, so here we go. Let's see who asked that. Diana. All right, Diana. Here are some things that we did. We did weird things. Like we would set up like obstacle courses in the basement when it was, because you want your kids to have fun, but it has to be inside after a certain time. Because I know in Illinois, like it's before 10 a.m. and after, 7 p.m. in the summertime, because it's just too brutally hot otherwise. And so we would set up obstacle courses. We would have scavenger hunts in the basement. If we did go outside, we were huge fans of water fights.
Yes.
Do you know, like you can get a huge volume of water out of those dishwater bottles?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dish soap bottles. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we had when we were kids. I remember the cylinder-shaped Lux liquid bottles that you had to snip the cap off at the top. You'd put a whole bunch of water in those and squeeze them, and oh my gosh, it was so much better than a squirt gun. Tell me about it. It was good. But that's what we did when I was growing up. We had water fights outside. We didn't have air conditioning, so that is how we coped with the hot weather.
Oh, with like those big, the big bottles from Sam's. Oh, those industrial size. Those are amazing. And especially if it's like kids against parents, or like, one parent with 2 kids and the other parent with 2 kids. It can be just a whole lot of fun, I'm telling you. And we also did like picnics. If it was too hot to go outside, we'd do an indoor picnic and have picnicky foods and lay like, a red and white checked cloth on the floor, just like we would if it was a picnic, and the kids would sit there and have a picnic, and then we would watch a movie on Friday nights. One of the things that I think for us has been always fun is doing things together as a family and planning some things within there that make it an experience. Like we always took turns planning, and we would go through the kids, oldest to youngest, to who got to pick the movie for Friday night, and nobody could complain. You just had to watch whatever movie your sibling picked from the library. But they all got a turn doing things. Sometimes they get a turn to pick the kind of ice cream or the kind of pizza. So it's money that we intended to spend anyway, but we really made it into sort of a mini celebration, like all the time when we did something as a family, because something special was always going to be included in that event.
Yeah, Friday nights were our movie night, and frankly, we did that all year round. We didn't do that just in the summertime.
Well, if we weren't out on picnics, because during picnic weather, a lot of times on Friday nights, we were at the park on a picnic.
Yeah.
All right. Karen Lehman would like to know, I love your videos. So fun that you've been eating out of your freezer. I'd like to know, were you surprised how much you actually had in there? Yes, Karen, I was. I hadn't done, and I tell you all to do regular like inventories of your freezer. And I do, okay? But it had been a while. And I was like, what the heck is this? And yeah, there was a lot more food in there than I thought that there was. Yes, truly. All right. Are there things in your house food-wise you've bought and never used but not gotten rid of because you spent a lot of money on them? So the only time this ever comes into play is if I find something that's maybe really high quality. Let's say it's $20 regular and I got it for $5. And then we really didn't like it, but I feel guilty because it's worth $20 even though I paid $5. Not often. All right. KFP would like to know.
I don't know if this has ever been discussed. Is there any way to determine if using the dishwasher or washing dishes by hand is more economical? I know you said you don't have a dishwasher, but I was hoping you might know a way to figure this out. Thank you.
Okay, this has not only been discussed, it's been debated on the channel. Experts are going to tell you, KFP, that it is less expensive to use your dishwasher, but I don't agree. We've had viewers that have written in and said, yep, soon as I started using my dishwasher, less water used. I think it depends on how many dishes you're doing, how often you're doing dishes.
How you do dishes.
Yeah. You got that constant stream of water running to rinse your dishes. It's
not good.
You're going to use a lot of water. So
I try to run the water that I'm rinsing with directly back into the tub of water that has the soap in it. So as you're using it out, you're filling it back up again, and that keeps me from using too much of it. So we're pretty careful about how much water we use. So don't have a real good answer on that one because we just don't have any way to compare.
No, because we just fueled the debate. All right, go ahead, go at it in the comments section.
Now let's talk about the toilet paper roll. No.
We are so not going to talk about that. How to do the toilet paper roll. All right. Another viewer would like to know: were you always on the same page financially when you were younger and early in your relationship? We'll answer that. Do you have tips on how to find the right partner, dating, who pays? All right, so we're very traditional, y'all. The guy pays. I'm going to put it out there.
And I agree with that
If
totally.
you are in a committed relationship leading to marriage, I think it's okay for the women to pick up the tab sometimes. But I think especially those first dates.
Yeah. Now, did we always agree financially?
No.
Yes. No.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. No. Yes. Well,
It's an interesting thing because we've sometimes told the story that we dated 5.5 years before we were married, and we had zero conversations about money.
Pretty much.
The only conversation we had about money was how much money we had in the bank. We were very open about our debt. We were both in debt, and how much money we had in the bank, which was almost nothing. I think both of us had a couple $300 in the bank each when we got married.
Maybe.
Literally,
I don't think that much.
And y'all know the story that 2 months after we got married, we were flat broke. We didn't have any money in the bank.
Yeah.
So it was not a good situation. I think one of the things that we needed to figure out was how to work together as a team when it came to money. And I think that's because he was 30, almost 31 when we got married. So he had his own money.
I was used to spending money just on myself, and I was pretty liberal with it. But having said that, I prayed for a woman that could handle money. Now, that got answered on steroids because Hope was not only just a little bit good with money, she was about 10 times down the line more than what I had bargained for.
You'll make me spit out my coffee. I had lived with roommates for 3 years.
On minimum wage.
Well, it was a little above minimum wage.
Not
I
much.
made a little bit more than that.
10 cents.
I mean, no, it was more than that. You forget, like minimum wage back then was $3.50 or something, and I was making $5 an hour. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was more than minimum wage. But I had learned a lot about handling money, and part of the problem was that both of us came into this having been on our own, having
our own styles of handling money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of figuring out how to meld those together and like start going toward goals. But, being broke 2 months after the wedding, that sort of, it was forced, all right? It forced us to either get it together or be in really big trouble.
And Hope was really used to living on a very stringent budget. And I don't think you really budgeted, but she wasn't running herself in debt. I had a little more liberal way of spending money. I lived at home. I had more money available. I went on vacations. I bought things I wanted. I had nice camera equipment, video equipment, nice bike. I did backpacking trips. I mean, I spent money, not a ton of money. I bought a brand new car. But now she was driving an real old car that clunked right before we got married. It was the motor, I think, almost seized up. So her experience was a lot different. So when we mixed them together, we finally reached kind of middle ground. But that didn't happen right away.
Yeah, I had the car that every time we got in it, we had to lay hands on it and say, Jesus, take the wheel, because Lord had to help us to keep that thing running. That was why I was in debt when we got married, because I had replaced that car.
It smelled like burnt oil.
Oh, it did not.
Yes,
oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Sheila, I love this, because this was a fun question to sort of noodle over. As someone on Social Security, my insurance has a monthly stipend for healthy food and a quarterly stipend for over-the-counter medication, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrushes, things like that.
That's nice.
What would you apply the stipends to? Okay, so we gave this some thought, Sheila. And we would, this won't surprise you, prioritize how to use that money. Because I think what I would do in your shoes would be to figure out, I'd make a list of what you really need, like what the needs are in that area. And then I would probably figure out how to use like a sale price and a coupon, and then pay for it with the stipend, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck as possible. Here's the other thing that I would do with that money. I don't even know if I think this is okay to do. I don't even know. Think about those areas that you can use the stipend on, in terms of maybe getting some items that you can give away later as gifts. And I would figure out how you could use that money to purchase things that can be used for gift giving later down the line.
Matthew asked a very important question. This is a very important topic. How do you not give up when learning to pay off debt? I'm new to all of this. My wife and I have massive credit card debt, and I'm paralyzed by fear that I'm a failure. We have 2 daughters, and at 44, I feel like my life is ruined. Any advice not to give up? Well, first of all, Matthew, realizing where you're at is the first step. You realize the problem that you're in financially. The most important thing is to now take some steps, even if they're baby steps, to alleviate the debt that you're in and not continue to go into debt.
And I would add, you are not a failure. Do you know what you are? Human.
Yes.
And being human means that we don't get it right all the time on any level, including our finances. Larry and I have made mistakes with finances.
Oh, yeah.
We continue to make mistakes with finances. In the future, we will make mistakes with finances. So the fact that you made mistakes with finances doesn't make you a failure. It makes you one of the rest of us. And I would say that from a parent's perspective, letting your kids know that you're human, I think, is one of the most important things you can do. Kids tend to put parents up on pedestals and think that we have it all figured out. And I think an important step in their growth as a person is to realize that we don't have it all figured out. Because then, you know what? When they make mistakes and they don't have it all figured out, they're going to feel like it's okay to come to mom and dad and tell them that, because they're people who have also made mistakes. We've had our kids come to us countless times on many different levels and say, I screwed up, here's what I did. And as a parent, it's your responsibility to say, okay, let's figure out what we need to do next. And then you comfort them in the fact that they made a mistake.
Start working on it. Don't continue to go into debt. Stop that and work on paying that down as you can afford to do so. You will get out of that sooner than you think.
Yeah, and as always, the same triad of advice that we give all the time, which is that you need to set a goal, write it down, put it in front of your face. Oh, I guess there are 4, and track your progress. There you go. So do those 4 things. Actually tracking your progress and working together as a team with your spouse will help you to keep that forward momentum. Good luck, Matthew. We are behind you 110%.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Dwayne said, what are the top 5 best frugal ideas of all time that have helped y'all save the most money? First of all, I love that you use the word y'all, Dwayne, because I use it all the time. If there's a top 10 list, I'd love to hear them as well. Dwayne, it seems to us like this is a topic for maybe an upcoming video. Tell us in the comments section, would you like us to do a video, guys, on the top 5 or the top 10 best frugal ideas of all time? What has really helped us to make forward progress? And we'll do that for you if you'd like that video. Noel, this might be a silly question. No question is silly, Noel. What's the best value on toilet paper? Larry is like the toilet paper king. I know it's a weird thing, but he has strong opinions.
Well, the main thing is how you put the roll on the spindle. No,
no. We already said we're not going there.
We don't have any real fancy ways of purchasing toilet paper. When we belonged to Sam's, currently we don't belong to Sam's. What we did, we just bought their house brand, and we bought the big bundle of, I don't know, how many is it, 18, 24 in a package. And I think we still got one full unopened package out in the garage. I kind of tend to like the double rolls that have about twice as much on there. But I would say just do the math. What's the most economical way? And toilet paper is toilet paper. I think there's some better kinds than others. The absolute cheapest kind of toilet paper probably is not a good value, but I would definitely look at what are your options in your area, pick the best one, and that's probably the one that's right for you.
Yeah, and she said she used to buy the one with 1,000 sheets. I know exactly what one you're talking about because I bought it too. And it's so thin, like you use twice as much of it as you would if it was just a wee bit thicker. I will say the cheap toilet paper that I have liked the best is Angel Soft, if that helps you at all. All right, next question.
I don't know what the name is. Can you read the name?
At Ilalala or something like that.
Ilalala, yeah.
Ilalala wants to know.
So it says, you mentioned going to a museum in Kentucky. And if it was the Creation Museum or the Ark, or how many days did you go and would you recommend? Well, we had some good friends at our church that had a free pass. They actually donated a lot of money to Ken Ham for that project, and therefore they got a lifetime pass to it. They gave us their family passes, so we actually got in for free. So all we paid was gas going down, room and board to stay overnight. And we actually went there 2 days. We found that in 2 days, you can see the Creation Museum. And if you wanted to go to the Ark, I would plan on an additional day to go to the Ark. It wasn't there when we went. We went there back in the, 2005 or 6 or something like that. It's been quite a while. Very worthwhile. We enjoyed it very much. It was a good trip.
I would say, it sounds weird to say the Ark did not exist. It did not exist back then. It didn't exist.
Not Ken Ham's Ark.
Ham's Ark.
That one did not exist. No, I would love to go see that. I really would. I'd be very interested in looking at it.
What kind of reusable feminine hygiene products did you use? I got permanent pads, and I bought them from this Etsy lady that lived in Canada and made them and sold them. It was a really good investment. They lasted me for years.
Ernestine asks, do you use your solar panels mainly for fridge, microwave, kitchen appliances, and TV? And did you buy several batteries to hold the energy so that you don't run out? I'm looking at portable panels. Well, Ernestine, we don't really have a solar panel battery system. What we have are several portable power stations with the portable fold-out panels that I put out in my backyard, and I charge those up. Actually, every day that it's sunny, I have 2 or 3 out there charging. We don't run our heavy appliances off of them because they just use so much power. I don't have quite enough solar to be able to generate to run our microwave, refrigerators, and freezer. So we do run our coffee maker in the kitchen. We run our lights in there. In our family room, we run several banks of lights. We run our TV, stereo entertainment center off of it. And actually the lights that we're using in our studio are also run, and the camera is all powered from a portable power station. So we use it for, I guess you would say, some smaller items. They last a long time that way, and we're able to keep up with it by taking them out and kind of putting them on a cycle of charging one unit while the other one's discharging.
We did use it for quite a while for the microwave, but our microwave runs the portable power station down pretty quickly, which
does.
either says something about how often we're using our microwave or like how much energy our microwave is using. So, you know, what's interesting about this whole thing, like once you start using solar panels or the portable power stations or anything where you are actively measuring the amount of energy that something uses, you do become more hyper aware of it, which is a good thing if you're trying to lower your energy consumption, which is something we've been working on for the last 2-3 months.
Yeah, I find a light that I read by all the time in the family room, if it's just plugged into the grid, supply of electricity, I tend to leave it on because it's not a big deal. But if it's running off the battery, I know that pretty soon I'm going to have to take that power, I'm going to have to take the power station out in the backyard and charge it. So I'm actually better at shutting the lights off if they're plugged into those power stations.
Okay, Joyce wants to know, this is another question for you.
Oh, yes.
How does your electric bike do in hilly areas? She's thinking of getting an electric bike. This is a great question because Larry is just getting ready, guys, tomorrow. Look for it tomorrow. He is going to drop a video, which is a 1 year, looking at his bike from 1 year perspective. Does he still like it? Does he still ride it? What kind of general maintenance has he had to do on the e-bike? But yeah, okay.
And for those watching the video later, that would have been Friday, June the 30th that we put that video out for the bike review. And on the bike review, I discuss how the Magicycle does on hills. Now, the Magicycle has a really good motor and battery system. So it's got a 750 watt motor. A lot of the bikes only have a 500 watt motor, which isn't going to give you quite as much power. With 750 watts, it will go up the steepest bluff hills that we have in our hometown. This is a river town. We have some steep hills. There actually is one hill I've not tried that looks like it goes straight up the bluff. I've not tried it on that hill. I intend to because I know it will do it, but it doesn't do bad at all. It does use a little power. One of the hills that I go up is about half a mile long, and it's a 210-foot climb, which is an equivalent of a 19-story building. So imagine lifting a bike and yourself 19 stories straight up. It takes a lot of energy to do that. It will use about 10% of the battery. So if you're not going up and down those hills a lot, it'll do fine. And I ride my bike out in the country a lot. It will get 40 miles. I ride it to some nearby towns, and I've easily done 40 miles on that bike with no problem at all on one charge. So it does really well.
Yeah, the big joke in the house now is where's Dad? I'm like, I don't know. He left on a bike ride. Could be 3-4 hours before we see him. We don't know. He sends pictures of these places where he's gone. I'm like, how in the world did you even get there? So the only thing I've told him is don't go across state line, okay? Just stay in Illinois and we are good to go.
And I have almost 4,000 miles on the battery. I mean, on the battery too, but on the bike. And the bike has never failed me on any hills of any kind. So yeah, get the right one. Get a Magicycle. They'll do you really good.
There you go. Watch the review, guys.
Yeah.
Beth, going to do any workshops in Peoria anytime soon? Yeah, it really hasn't crossed our mind to do any workshops here at home. But anyway, thanks for asking.
Just the videos. Yeah, we don't do any live in-person events.
Best way to cover college costs. And she said junior college, then 4 years, or just go to a 4-year university. No, junior college first.
Definitely junior college.
Which, it's a 2-year community college, and 2 of our 4 boys have used our local community college and absolutely loved it. Felt like they had great professors there. Most of them were professors, by the way, because it's always a common question. It's like, do they have, basically people want to know, are they actually full-fledged professors? Do they have their PhD in the subject matter in which they're teaching it? And for the most part, we have found, even at the local 2-year college level, that they have been taught primarily by PhDs, and they've had a super experience. And answer your question, it was a really interesting experience for us because our oldest son does have his bachelor's in psychology, and he is currently saving up to attend to get his master's. And he's saving up cash to pay cash to go through his master's program. And we only gave him $1,000 a year when he went. We basically paid for books, but he was highly scholarshiped.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word. He got mega scholarships.
Yeah.
And so the best scholarship he got was when he transferred to a private 4-year university from the 2-year college. They offered him a full tuition scholarship. So literally all he did was pay to earn room and board money there, and the rest was paid for. So he didn't need it. Our third son is currently going through college and is studying right now to be a middle school teacher. And we're paying more of his college costs than we did our oldest son. But we've got a little more money and we got fewer kids now. So yeah, we're paying a little bit more, but I mean, there's no way we won't, once he transfers to a 4-year university, we won't be paying half of it. So he'll have to get some scholarships or work a little bit. But yeah, we're definitely helping him through the first 2 years.
Our community college, as Hope mentioned, has good instructors. It's really very highly rated.
Yeah.
And really it's rated on par with our 4-year universities that are in our state. So having said that, it's very equivalent to them just going 4 years to an accredited university and paying maybe triple the amount of money
or quadruple.
doing that.
Oh yeah. Credit hours at 4-year universities are easily 3 to 4 times what he's paying to go through.
For sure.
Our 2-year
Jane from the country says, Hope, you mentioned you needed a new sofa a while back in 2023. Did you end up buying a new sofa, or did you just throw out the old sofa? Your home is paid off, so why not buy a new piece of furniture? With cash, I mean.
So Larry is asking the same question that Jane from the country is asking. Here's the deal. We've needed 2 new sofas, one for our family room and one for our main living room. And we wound up getting 2 matching chairs for the family room, and we moved the family room sofa upstairs to the living room. And right now it's working. We have money set aside, but and Larry hates this about me. I take forever to make up my mind. Because, okay, a sofa's going to last a while. I got to live with that sofa.
And I have to live with
years. And so, periodically, y'all know, we're going to repaint the downstairs kitchen this year, and he's been asking me for years to please, just for God's sakes, pick a color.
Pick a color.
to cover that ugly yellow in that kitchen. And so that's the truth, Jane, is he's waiting on me. I guess when I find the perfect sofa, I'll know it. Okay, Teresa would like to know health insurance options for fire folks. I love you fire people. That is so cool to actually, it's financial independence, retire early. For those of you who don't know about the fire movement, it's very, very fun. Google it. And I think it's such an awesome idea to be able to do that. So her insurance is keeping her tied to work, and she's like, tell me what to do. So we will freely admit that insurance is the number one most expensive thing on our retirement budget.
Awful.
Is insurance. Yeah. Because I'm 7 years younger than Larry, and we still have 2 kids at home. I mean, one is in college, but the other one is going to be a junior in high school. So we still have a few years to go yet before we don't have kids on our insurance. We went with the insurance that he had from his previous employer, and we were able to get a policy through them that was basically the equivalent of what we would have paid elsewhere. So we went ahead and kept that insurance. But we looked very, very closely at a Christian healthcare sharing membership. So if you're a Christian, you can join one of these organizations, and basically the members help one another with medical expenses. It works really, really well. Our favorite, by the way, in case you're wondering, is Samaritan Ministries. Look it up. 2 of our kids, our grown kids, work for Samaritan, and have loved it there.
Julie asks, hi, can you tell us something we don't know about each of you? What do both of you think of everything going on right now and what is to come? Do you think we're headed to a cashless society? What do you think about the NWO? I guess that would be the
New World Order.
New World Order. Okay. What about the new agenda going around? What are some suggestions for people who are struggling finding work? Well, there's a lot of questions here.
A lot of questions. Okay, Julie.
Let's take a couple of those here.
And you know that we never politicize this channel. We have never, and we will never, because we feel like, well, first of all, like 20% of you all that watch don't even live in the United States. You live overseas.
Yeah.
And whenever you begin to really highly politicize saving on money, I don't find it to be super helpful, because then you wind up with just this constant contention between one side of the aisle and the other. Now, although we definitely have opinions politically, it's highly unlikely that we will ever share those political opinions on the channel.
No, we really want to keep the channel about frugal finances and that kind of thing. As far as I did have, about headed toward a cashless society, I think eventually it will. We've been headed that direction gradually all along. Now most people have debit cards, and we prefer debit cards to using cash. We still use some cash, but I think it's definitely headed there. As far as the future, God only knows the future. We really don't worry too much about that. It's in His hands.
Having said that, we do keep up, like she asked about
yes, we do.
where the new agenda going around, the new world order.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think that especially in social media, you get a lot of opinions on one side or the other.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, unfortunately, and this is what we've always told our kids, is that you need to look up the actual source, the original source for what people are throwing around as fact on social media. And sometimes we actually agree with the people that wrote the opinion, and sometimes we don't agree with the person who wrote the opinion.
Yeah.
But whenever you're looking at where society is going, where finances are going, where the food supply is going, all of that stuff, whenever you're looking at that, set politics aside just for a second and ask yourself if you are acting on facts or whether you're acting on fear. Because there's a huge difference between the two. And as a whole, Larry and I watch both sides of the aisle. We look at all the opinions. We determine what our opinion is. And then we determine, based on what we're seeing and feeling and hearing, what does that mean for the direction we're going to be going, like with our finances and our plans. We tend to definitely suggest that people, if you're in debt, get out of debt.
Yeah.
We think that's a super bad idea right now, to be in debt. Do everything you can to pay off that debt. I think being debt-free is going to be super helpful. I think having a fully stocked pantry of 3 to 6 months at least food is going to be super helpful.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be super helpful probably to have a little extra cash on hand.
We'll watch channels that talk about being prepared or getting ready for things.
Sure we do.
But if they are fear-based, we turn them off. We just don't feed on that, and we don't perpetrate that in our own home.
If the crux of your question, however, is, are we concerned? Yeah,
yes,
we are.
We are very concerned.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That concern, it's definitely not an 8, 9, or a 10, maybe not even a 7. We are concerned enough that we are taking steps to be as prepared as we possibly can without feeling like we are being shoved into panic mode.
Right. So Julie asks, can you tell us something we don't know about each of you? And one of the other questions was, how many siblings do each have? Well, Hope is one of 5, and I am one of 5. So we come from the same number. Now, in Hope's case, there's a stepsister involved that she wasn't really raised with. And I had a sister that passed away way back in 1951 before I was born. She was 4 years old, and I did not know her. So I really kind of think of myself as being one of 4. So that's how many. I'm the last of the siblings, and Hope is number 2 in her family.
Something you don't know about each of us. I am a left-handed. You may not have known that. I'm left-handed. It's something I don't know about you.
I'm right-handed.
No.
No big deal.
Something interesting they don't know about you. Larry played the clarinet in the high school band, which is pretty cool.
I met most of my high school friends in the Woodruff High School band. Yeah, that's where we met. Had a great time. I loved my time in high school. Hope and I are 7 years apart. That's something that you may not have known unless you watched the video about how we met and married. But there is quite a few years. As you get older, those years don't make a whole lot of difference. But when we first met, she was 18 right out of high school. I was 25 and I'd been out for 7 years. Big difference at that age. So, but once I explained to her who Ed Sullivan was and who the Beatles were, and about the Apollo 11 landing and Kennedy as president and some of that stuff, we were pretty good.
It's good. I explained to him AC/DC. It was all good. All good. Melissa wants to know, how do you save when you have debt and you're trying to pay it off? Yeah, so what she's basically asking is, how do you balance those two? You want to save money, you want to have an emergency fund, but you're still trying to pay off debt. How do you balance those two? And it all comes down to my favorite word, priorities. Prioritize what you're doing. Look at how much of that emergency fund you do have. You need to have at least $2,000 sitting in that emergency fund. And then I would probably just go like crazy after that debt and get it paid off as quickly as you can. So I think it's possible to balance the two. If you feel like you really want to, you can keep adding maybe $100 or $200 a month, however much you can toward that emergency fund. If you feel like it lets you sleep at night. I mean, because I think for us, finances, it's so hard, guys, because there's no one right way to do it. And there's no like perfect answer for every person.
No.
And I think that peace of mind and being able to sleep at night, that's super important to us when we start talking about money. And Melissa, if you're laying awake at night thinking, I don't know, there's no number on that emergency fund, just feed it a little bit. Just give it, it's like a sourdough starter. Just give it a little bit each day or each month, and then put the bulk of everything else toward paying off the debt.
Noelle asks, what do you know about establishing a trust? Nothing. No. We know nothing. We've had no experience in that. We would suggest that you contact an attorney and get it set up through them. They're the experts in that field.
Mrs. Madison would like to know, what did Larry do and why did he retire early?
Wow. Well, on my last job, I worked for our local police department, and I worked in the property and evidence room. I actually worked for the department for 20 years. I did a couple other jobs, but I worked in the property room for 17 years, and I absolutely loved the job. It was a good job, good people to work with, good people to work for. It was a joy to go in to work. Why did I retire early? I didn't. I retired at the age of 65. I'll be 66 here soon. So I didn't retire early. I retired right on time.
All right, we know that this is a little bit of a longer video than we generally do, but it's been so much fun having coffee with y'all and sitting and chatting. Now, on next month's coffee chat, we're going to go back to, we're going to do this every other month, guys. I mean, we're going to do coffee chat every month, but this month was viewer questions. So next month, we're going to be giving viewer tips on how to save money. We'll give a whole bunch of the best of the viewer tips that we receive about how to save money. Now, if you want to know what we talked about last month, then the last coffee chat has actually been super popular. And it was one of those videos where we talked about the best frugal tips that were sent in from viewers. If you don't want to watch that, the video is right over there.